Hey guys, this is Billy with HPAL today, and today we're going to be reviewing the McLaren MP412C. This particular model is a 2012 model, and there's been quite a lot of controversy around these cars on the internet, and we are trying to kind of give you guys an insider look on the car and kind of update you guys on what we've seen working with these cars and some of the cool features and nuances of the car, and just walk you through what it would be like getting in the car, getting out of the car, some of the common problems, cost of ownership, and things like that. This particular car is Volcano Red. It's a 2012 earlier model car. It has 597 odd horsepower at 7,000 RPM. It has about 440 approximate foot-pounds of torque from 3,000 to 7,000 RPMs. It's a 3.8 liter twin turbo V8 engine, and it is a rocket ship. It is a seven-speed dual clutch transmission car, and it's a phenomenal car. They get downplayed a lot, but I think these cars are a lot better than people give them credit for. So today we're going to try to go into the details as why it is better than the car is given credit for. So one of the first things is getting in the car. They've got this feature where it's heat sensitive, and it touches or senses your touch, and that's how you open the door, which can sometimes be tricky getting into the car. One of the other features of this car is when the doors are locked, you will know if the car has the doors locked because the mirrors are folded in, and that's a feature McLaren implemented in the car. So if you come up to your car and the door is locked, you'll know the door is locked, and just so you don't try to open the car up with the door locked. Next thing is to get in the car, you'll have to press this unlock button, and there's a little sticker on the door that shows the hand motion to get inside the car. Sometimes it's a little tricky. I've gotten a little bit better at it. That's one way to get in the car. The second way is push the unlock button twice, and you can get in the car. There's one thing I'd like to discuss. If the car has been sitting for some time and the battery dies and you try to open up the door, well, for one, you won't be able to because it won't sense the heat. But if it did and the door opened, you have to watch out for this because it will break the glass. Or if the battery's gone weak and it just won't drop the glass. Another thing is on the late 2013 models, they actually implemented a button here because of this issue here, trying to get in the car. But with some practice, you can get in the car. So when you have the door open on the car, another thing you'll notice right here is there is a little picture of the car with a tow hook bonnet. This, if the car is being towed to the dealership, will need to be activated to stop the mobilizer to sounding the alarm system because it detects the car's motions changing. Although it's really funny, I seriously doubt any McLaren owner would allow a tow truck to tow the car from the rear wheels. So I'm not sure why they use that picture, but I guess maybe that's just a good indication the car is getting towed. This feature right here actually opens up the access panel to the rear engine compartment. Doesn't do anything when the car is powered off. And here is the rear engine compartment. You've got the clamshell here, the active dynamic system here with the engine brake spoiler feature. This is your coolant reservoir tank. That's where you fill up the engine oil intake, resonators for sound going back into the cab. You can see the oil filter housing straight down, but there's not much to see here until you actually get the car into service position, if that's such a thing, and that's by removing these panels here, removing this cover, removing the clamshell. There's quite a bit of work involved actually getting the car into service position. But it's not as bad as it appears. It's just one of those things where it's time consuming, but once you get an understanding of how the car works, it's not too big of a task to get this thing under everything out of the way and get the service performed on the car. Some of the common issues on these cars is the tail lights. The earlier models, the LED systems have issues. And McLaren actually had identified this and revised the tail light with a service bulletin to replace these. And there's also a marking, which you can't see on this because they've been updated as well. But if you look right here, I'm not sure if you can see, but there is a marking here that indicates it's updated, where on the non-updated models, there's the marking here for the lights. That's one of the issues with the McLaren. Another one is the bubbling here of the lift system here. There's some aftermarket units that have anodized finish on it that looks really good as well. These cars come stock with the carbon ceramic brakes, which are pretty well systems to use, but if you're going to heavily track the car, these fatigue really quick and they're very expensive to replace. A good recommendation is to switch these out for the steel version of the brake rotors, and that's pretty much the preferred option most people go with if they're going to track the car, use it all on the track. These have a moisture bag in them that's required to be changed out for each annual service, or it can cause moisture to build up in the headlight. Now McLaren has since updated this and did away with the moisture bags, which in my opinion was kind of a unusual system to use in headlights. I just don't see why they wouldn't keep them sealed off better from the factory. But that's just one of the things on these cars to look for. This is the luggage compartment in the front, which is much more spacious than you'll find in most exotic cars. You've got a container here, got the wiper fluid here, the brake reservoir, the hydraulic fluid for the power steering system, which also controls the active aero system as well. Very spacious compartment compared to most exotic cars. And just like that, the hood is shut. To show you what it's like to inside the car. So that is how you get inside the McLaren 12C. But as you've noticed, the window didn't drop. The window is very difficult, or the door is very difficult to shut sometimes, and the heat sensor will not unlock the door if you do it that way. Thankfully I'm on the inside, so I can just push the button, but you do have to slam the door to get the shut. So when you have the key fob in your hand, you basically push your foot on the brake, hold this button down, and that's how you activate the engine on this car. Right here is also your aero settings and performance settings. A lot of times people make adjustments here, but before you make those adjustments you actually have to hit the active button first. And then this is normal, sport, track, performance settings, and then for aero this is normal, sport, track settings as well. This will affect pretty much how the car performs pretty dramatically. I prefer the track settings in this car. It's just a lot more raw and aggressive, less assist, traction control off. It's just, in my opinion, the best way to drive the car. From right here, you've got the park and brake, which you push your foot on the brake pedal and push down to deactivate it. You see the lights off, push your foot back on it and pull up. You'll see the lights show up. That's activated. You've got the hazard lights right here. The neutral, which is where you leave the car at, and then you hit that to hit park. Drive mode, reverse, the trunk, door lock feature. Then I didn't go over these. This is winter mode, launch mode, which I personally don't prefer to use that mode ever because I just feel like it's hard on the gearbox and could potentially increase the chance of a gearbox failure. Right here you've got all of your HVAC controls here, which is pretty unique. The passenger side as well has the controls here. But you can control the passenger side-by-head mono. This activates your AC. This is auto mode. You know, the top vents, center vents, lower vents. Window controls here. One-touch feature, which, unlike most exotic cars, it does have the one-touch feature on both sides. And then this right here is how you open up the door. And also, if you get in a situation where the system isn't working, you can utilize this to mechanically open the door. And as you can see, the door is sometimes difficult to shut. You know, you have the center console here as well. You have a USB, auxiliary cable, not much storage space. You've got this compartment here to store some manuals. You've also got this compartment here as well for some manuals. And then you do have a cup holder, which right now has some cables in place of it. You also have the input cables here as well, the two cup holders. So this is your centralized infotainment, or Iris station. This is Iris one, you can tell by the buttons here, which came on the earlier model cars. You control all of your audio, navigation, phone, radio settings from here. It is known to be somewhat glitchy on the earlier models, but you know, when you're driving a car like this, your number one concern probably isn't the radio. There has been some issues with the connectivity of the Bluetooth and aux cable, or complaints about through some people's feedback online. You can't use both at the same, or the nav and the Bluetooth can't be utilized at the same time and stuff like that. But you know, it's a lot better than what you'll find in most modern day supercars. Right here is the button you press to start the car. Okay, and now we are going to take this on a test drive. And the interior sounds pretty good in this car. I mean, it's not too loud to the point where you can't enjoy driving the car, but it, you know, it's just right where you can hear the engine sound and you know, get some of that experience of driving a twin-turbo McLaren on the street. This thing just feels like a full-blown race car on the street. When you put the suspension in sport mode, engine in sport mode, you can definitely tell the car tightens up. It's got the great interior sound as well. It feels really comfortable considering what this car is capable of. Very tight suspension. The gas and throttle response are very, you know, responsive. It's got a great downshift. The transmission's very smooth as well. I mean, you compare this to the 2012 gearbox in a Gallardo, 458 Italia, Aventador. It is just totally different as far as the shifting of the car compared to those cars. Shifts night and day difference. And that's one of McLaren's expertise areas is, performance and drivetrains, and it really shows in this car compared to its competitors. And we'll just, we're going to give a little quick accelerated pull so you can kind of hear it. Woo! This thing runs amazing. You can really, really feel it's just putting all of the power to the ground. I mean, just incredible feel to this car. Incredible. And one of the cool features about it is when you hit that the aero brake, you can just really feel it when you come to a hard brake. You can feel that aero brake just putting downforce, slowing the car down. The design is amazing. And now the car is in total normal mode. You can definitely tell the sound goes down quite a bit. Quite a bit quieter. The ride smoothens up a lot. And even in normal mode, when you go, I mean, the car still pulls really strong. It's just very, very quick, as you would expect. You know, McLaren, they just really did a great job with this car, and with the performance packages on this car, it is just an incredible car to drive. Just to think, you know, you can change out the turbos, do a couple of, or a little bit of tuning, and, you know, some internal work on this car and put down 800 to 1200 horsepower is just incredible, and not have any issues with the drivetrain handling and power. That's a real, you know, testament to how well these cars are built. And that pretty much summarizes my overview of the McLaren 12C. These cars are a great car to buy if they're maintained properly. You're looking at $90,000 to $150,000 to get into one of these cars now. Salvage model cars anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 is what I've heard. From a maintenance perspective, you should be looking at oil changes every 5,000 miles or annually. Even if you don't hit 5,000 miles every single year, it's good to change oil, because fluids, just like food, goes bad over time, and the additives that protect the engine components break down and aren't as strong after a year. So it's highly recommended to change those out. Gearbox is 2 years, 20,000 miles for the gearbox, and clutch fluid, which also the clutch fluid controls the active aero system on the car. And so those two fluids work in two different systems being shared together. It's good just to flush those out every year, make sure no contaminants cross-contaminate other systems and cause damages. The gearbox itself, the differential fluid needs to be changed as well every 2 years, 20,000 miles as well. Kind of same thing. Over time it breaks down, gets weak, and isn't strong, and can allow wear to occur a lot sooner than it should. Brake flushes are every 2 years, 20,000 miles on these cars. Air filters recommend every 2 years or 10,000 miles. The cabin filter is recommended annually. Also the steering and suspension share the same fluids as well. They ran on the same hydraulic system, so that's another good fluid to flush every 2 years on these cars. The big thing to focus on with these cars is to get them to last a long time, is to service them properly and keeping all the services done when they're recommended. Stopping fluids from deteriorating over time, which allows these systems to fail. You hear about these gearbox failures, the steering system failures, and the aero failures, but if you look, most of these cars aren't serviced when they should. Now, admittedly, you will have some, you know, probably quirks with electrical systems from time to time on these cars. You know, not all failures can be prevented with, you know, repetitive services and whatnot, but it can greatly decrease the chances of that. Another thing is spark plugs every 3 years, 30,000 miles. This car had the services neglected on it, on the plugs, and we can tell a noticeable difference in the performance once we got the services up to date on this car as well. Weak spots in the car. If you notice to see fluid leak out of the weep on the gearbox, that is a sign of gearbox failure. We haven't seen that very often, but it can occur if maintenance is neglected. Kind of back to the steering and suspension system, we have seen some failures in those, but it's usually due to negligence. Same with the active aero system and clutch system. Once again, clutch fluid and active aero system cross-contamination of fluid failures we've seen. Some of the electrical systems have gave issues from time to time. Headlights and taillight failures, which McLaren has since updated the parts. The front lower control arms give issues with some age as well. We have seen some issues in the door sensors here not working properly. Carbon ceramic brakes wearing out, but they were usually on track cars as well. You know, the performance on these cars is incredible too. You know, with a tune, exhaust upgrade, these cars are making great power. If you go and upgrade the turbochargers, they're getting quite a bit of horsepower. Hypercar has an 800, 1200 horsepower package, or even work on a 1500 horsepower package right now. The stock transmissions hold up extremely well. So from a high performance perspective too, you can get one of these cars, do some aftermarket tuning and bolt-ons, and reach 1200 horsepower. So the performance potential of these cars is incredible, with, you know, just a couple of changes in these cars. The gearboxes, like I said, have done really well if you service them too. So just changing out a couple parts on these cars can really yield you some really high performance gains. And, you know, if you want, you can go and do some body kit work, lower the car a little bit, and get a really great looking car that really performs extremely well compared to the other cars such as a Ferrari, Lamborghini. You know, you're looking pretty much competing with twin turbo Lamborghinis and full bolt-on Porsche turbos with just a little bit of work with these cars. So they do really well compared to other cars in the performance area. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope I answered any questions you guys were looking for as far as performance, the overview of the car, or common problems with these cars. I'm sure there's always more issues that we may have not covered that just come up that aren't as common with these cars. But if you have some questions regarding anything in this video or requests for anything in future videos, just please comment below. We appreciate the support. We're trying to give you guys as much knowledge as possible on McLaren, Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini cars. And we are an active sales, service, performance, and detail shop in this industry. So if you have any questions regarding any of those topics, comment below. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.